So Gina and I have been car camping here at Kujbequack National Park in New Brunswick, Canada for the last 2 weeks. And we're camping off-grid, which means we do not have an electrical hookup. So all our electrical needs are being supplied by a power station like my Bluetti Elite 100 V2. My other source of power is a Power Queen 12-volt 100 amp hour battery that I've reviewed separately from this. So what I thought I'd do is just take a few minutes to talk about what I've been using the power station for and how it's performed for me. So as discussed earlier in the video, the Bluetti Elite 100 V2 power station, it has a total of 1,024 watt hours storage. Now it's also capable of delivering 1,800 watt continuous through its inverter, but my needs out here camping nowhere come close to that. But it was the 1,024 watt hours that I was most interested in and helping me keep everything powered up that I needed to. And the primary use for the power station has been this unit right below it, and that is the Iceco APL 55 refrigerator freezer, and I have a separate review on that as well. And this is what it's been used primarily for. Now, in addition to the fridge freezer unit, of course, it's been powering or recharging, I guess, things like our cell phones, our headlamps, the camera that I'm recording with, and a few other small electrical items as well. So that's the primary use for it. Now, what I want to talk about is how well this has been working for the refrigerator, because that of course is the primary power user that I have and the one that has to keep working. So what I've found is we arrived here at Kujbequack and the first 2 days were record-breaking heat. Really it was between 35 and 37 degrees Celsius. I'll put the Fahrenheit on the screen. And the second day was between 33 and 35 degrees Celsius, just smoking, scorching hot. And that would be a real strain on any power unit that needs to power a refrigerator like this. But the Power Queen, or not the Power Queen, sorry, the Bluetti has worked very, very well for us. Now, it also gave me the ability to determine just how much power the fridge was using. So just as an aside, I determined that in those 24-hour periods, the refrigerator was only drawing about 500 watts, which meant that this power station would have enough capacity to power my refrigerator for 2 full days before it drained it down. Now, I wasn't letting that happen. Every 24 hours, I would switch out this for the Power Queen 12-volt battery and switch so that I could charge the other one. So that to recharge the power station as well as the other battery, I'm using my Bluetti 200-watt solar panel, and it's been working out very well. So basically, this has done exceptionally well for us over the last 2 weeks, and I expect it will do well for many years to come. All right, back to the video. We are back from our camping trip, and I wanted to take a few minutes to go into a bit more detail about the Bluetti Elite 100 version 2, and I'll go through a few more of my experiences using it as well. All right, we're going to focus in on the power station. I'll go through its key features as well as its physical specifications and its performance specifications. Then I'll get into a little bit more detail about my usage of it, and then we'll wrap this video up. So as we get started, I want to first mention that Bluetti has had a lineup of power stations that they refer to as the Elite series, but recently they have revamped the power stations in that line to bring it up to date with the newest technologies, and the Elite 100 version 2 is an example of that. Now, there are other power stations in Bluetti's lineup that have similar size factor, similar capabilities, but not quite the same. One example is the AC180. Now, I don't own the AC180, but I have looked at its specifications, so I can give you a little bit of a comparison between the two power stations, maybe to help you decide if one of these is the one you're looking to purchase. But before we get to that, I want to start with what arrives in the box. So when your box arrives, what else is in there in addition to the power station? Well, all important, of course, is a means of charging it up. So there is the AC charging cable. I'll show you where that plugs in a moment. Another item that came with it is this. This is the solar panel charging cable, which I made really good use of on a daily basis along with my Bluetti 200-watt solar panel. panel while we were away camping. And of course, the manual and warranty information. Now, one thing that did not come with the Elite 100, which I really recommend that you purchase at the same time, you might as well buy it at the same time to save you on shipping and cost and everything else, and that is a 12-volt auto charging cable that you can charge while you're moving with your vehicle. This is what we use to charge the battery up driving to and from the park where we camped at, and it was pretty much an essential. I'll say that. If you're on the move, you need a means to charge it from your vehicle. So those are the things that came with it and what I recommend. Now let's go through a few of the key features before we get into the specifications. Number one is this is a reasonable weight. What I mean by that is this weighs approximately 25 pounds. Now, at the time when Bluetti offered to send this out to me, there were two power stations that I was interested in. This one, the Elite 100, and the Elite 200. I felt that the Elite 200 would certainly cover me for all of the 2 weeks camping, but it was pointed out to me that it weighs about 50 pounds. That's not insignificant, and of course you do have to take weight into consideration. So 25 pounds, still very portable, and has all the power that that I needed during the camping trip in it. Now, one of the things that it has that came into play a couple of times when I was away is the fact that you can charge this to 80% within 40 minutes using the turbo charging standard on this. I don't recommend that as a regular practice. I actually checked in with Bluetti to see just how often that can be used without causing damage, and they said it's very reasonable. The battery management system in this will prevent damage. However, they still recommend against using it on a regular basis. So if you don't need to turbocharge it, don't. Just use the standard charging. It's almost as fast. In fact, I did see upwards of 1100, almost 1200 watts going into the power station from an AC source when I did need to charge it very rapidly. On average, though, it will take 600 to 700 watts input from an AC charging port on it, but the battery management system will control that for you to protect the batteries and do the best job. All right, so that is the charging. Now, it also delivers or will accept up to 1,000 watts of solar input. And with that, using the maximum power point tracking solar controller built into the device, you can get charging to about 70 minutes from zero. Well, I don't have 1,000 watts of solar power. I had 200 watts, and on average, on any good sunny day, I was getting between 140 and 160 watts of solar power. It takes a while at that to charge this battery because it is a good sized battery. We'll get into those specs in a few minutes' time. So it's nice to know that if you're using this in somewhat a semi-permanent or permanent setup, that it will accept up to 1,000 watts of solar, so that's also nice. It has really an impressive amount of output for a battery of its size. This will deliver 1,800 watts, that's combined of all the outputs, 1,800 watts output on an ongoing basis. However, you can use up to 2,700 watts lifting power. So if you have a device that has a need for higher than 1,800 watts, as long as it's resistive load, meaning not a motor, but something with like a heating element, you can take this up to 2,700 watts. We'll talk about the surge capacity in a few minutes' time. Now, here is something of interest because I have been using Bluetti power stations for a while. And that is they now rate the power station batteries at about 10-year lifespan on them. So that is not insignificant. I think most users will never get to the 10-year mark with this battery. We'll talk about how many times you can charge and discharge the battery without it actually losing its capability in a few minutes' time. Here's another thing that I really took note of while I was away camping, and that is the noise level. So there are obviously a cooling system built into this, especially when it's discharging into another device, either AC or DC. It has fans, and it is very, very quiet, almost unnoticeable, 30 decibels. So you can actually have this in the vehicle if you have a camper or in the tent, and it's unlikely to wake you up at 30 decibels. Very, very low noise level, and it has a 10 millisecond UPS switchover, meaning that if you were to run maybe your computer or any other device that is sensitive to power failures, you can run it off of this battery and AC input charging at the same time. And if you suffered a power failure for whatever reason, 10 milliseconds will switch over from the wall-mounted or the grid power to battery power, and you'll never even see a flicker on your computer. I've actually tested that with a couple of devices. You don't see anything happen at all. So very, very quick turnover. Now, this has also got Bluetooth, and that's not unusual. Most of Bluetti's products have Bluetooth attachments, so I have the app on my phone that allows me to control this. But you can also set it up with Wi-Fi to do the same. I have not done that because, well, of course, I was away camping, but you can set up and use Wi-Fi with your power station as well. Now, the last thing I'll mention before we get into specifications is the warranty. This is certainly industry standard, 5-year warranty, and Bluetti does stand behind their products, and they'll take care of you with any needs that you have there. All right, let's start with the physical specifications for the Elite 100, and as I do so, I'll give you an overview of what's on the outside of the power station itself. So in terms of dimensions, it is 12.6 inches in this dimension, 9.8 inches in this dimension, and 8.5 inches in this dimension. And as I mentioned, it comes in at 25 pounds, actually 25.3 pounds. Now let's just take a look at the front of the power station. So it is kind of drawn off into different segments. On this side over here is the DC side, so this would be the DC input either from solar panels or from your auto charging cable, so that's the XT60 input port there. Here is the output port for 12 volt DC, and under there is two DC 5521 ports also delivering 12 volts there. Now in the center area here obviously is the on off button. Let me just turn the power station on. Hopefully that's going to show up, and you can see I'm at 100% capacity. By the way, that's not the capacity you want to let this store at any length of time. But if you're running it up to 100% and then using it, that's fine. It's just long-term storage. It should be between 40 and 80% just for maximum battery life. I'll point that out. On either side of the power button are the DC and AC switches, allowing you to turn on or turn off either or both at the same time if you have a need to. And then moving over to this side are the four 120 volt 15 amp AC outputs. Now we'll just flip around to this side, and what you're going to see here is this is where your 12 volt charging cable plugs in, and a grounding screw. So you separate from the AC cable. If you feel you have a need to ground this unit, you can do so using a wire attached to this. On both sides are fan ports to help cool it off. And the last thing I'll show you is just the back of the device. One is that grab handle, so it's integrated into the form factor, making it much easier to carry it and not get in the way. And I did find that helpful when I had to carry it from where I was charging it to where we were using it. It was just nice. Nothing to get in the way of packing things on or around it. And of course, all the technical information for the power station is on the back here. All right, now let's go into the performance specifications. Now, all the information I'm giving you now is in the video description, as well as you can see it through the links to Bluetti's website as well. Now, output. Let's talk about outputs, because that's what most people want to know. What can I run with this? Now, what you can run with it, of course, is based on what the power consumption of the item you want to run with it is. Now, Bluetti offers some great guidance in that area, as does the manual telling you or giving you guidelines on how to determine what you need in terms of output capacity from your power station for whatever device it is you use. Now, you saw it when we were camping. I was using my IceCo APL 55 fridge freezer combination. Very low draw, honestly, very, very low draw. I think it was averaging between 50 and 60, depending how when it first comes on and it runs for a few minutes, 50 and 60 watts that is. This thing can deliver up to 1,800 watts in total. So that is from the 4 AC outputs, which are 120 volt, 15 amps. So you can deliver up to 1,800 watts. That's really very impressive. Now, it is a pure sine wave inverter, and that's pretty much standard today on most power stations. It does have a surge capacity of 3,600 watts. Now, that comes into play certainly with some items, especially those with motors, that when you first turn them on or plug them in, they draw more power initially, just for a short period of time, and maybe even just a couple of seconds, and it will draw much more than its running wattage requirements. So you do need to have a surge capacity. The surge capacity for this, 3,600 watts. I don't know that I have anything in my home that will draw 3,600 watts in a surge capacity and then run at the 1,800 watts. So that's kind of nice. The lifting capacity, when they call it lift power, and that is 2,700 watts. Now basically that's the ability to run the power station at 2,700 watts delivery, but it is qualified by the fact that it has to be resistive loads. Motors don't count because motors have a constantly changing need for power. It would be something like, may have a heating element in it, something that will run at a constant power but doesn't require the same voltage, because that's how it works. You can raise the wattage, but you drop the voltage. It's just a matter of mathematics. Up to 2,700 watts output in lift mode. Now, it does have four USB ports to them, or USB type A ports, one at 100 watts and the other at 140 watt delivery. So that's fast charge. I'll tell you, it charges my cell phone very, very quickly. Of course, you have to have the right cable to go with it. But if you have fast charge devices like modern cell phones, you can recharge them off this very quickly. Now, while I'm at that, one thing that is missing off of this that has been on a lot of the power stations in the past is that magnetic charging pad on top. And they have eliminated that from the Elite 100. Honestly, it was too slow. I never used it on the other power stations. It was just too slow, unless you just wanted to put it there all day. But if you're looking for it to actually charge your phone, yeah, it was way too slow. Another thing that's not on this, by the way, is a light. There is no lamp. A lot of the power stations in the Bluetti lineup and most of the other makers use some type of a light. Sometimes it's a round light here, sometimes it's an area light on the back or on the sides. No lights on this. Things that I guess that most people were not using, they eliminated from this design. And if you're interested, they do have other power stations that still have both of those things, of course. So what else does it have? It has two USB type A ports, both delivering 15 watts, 5 volt, 3 amps. And that's the typical that you'll get on most power stations, of course. It has one car outlet, 12 volt, 10 amp car outlet right here. This is, of course, what we ran the refrigerator off of. But in addition to that, it has two more DC outputs, and these are DC 5521 ports here, both are running at 12 volt, 5 amp as well. Now, let's just talk about AC, or inputs, all types of inputs. So there are a few options. Obviously, you can charge this with AC if you have that available to you. We did not have that available to us at the park where we were camping, unless I wanted to go to an outbuilding quite some distance away, which I did have to do on a couple of occasions, only because I hadn't paid attention to the charge rates, and I needed to get it up to speed very quickly so that I could get the fridge operating again very quickly. But in addition, of course, you can use photovoltaic, which is solar, and of course I mentioned that's where the solar goes in there through the XT60 port. You can charge it with your car, 12 volt car, but again, that goes in through the XT60 port here. You just need to have the right cable for that as well. You can charge it with a gas generator. I have that at home here. Certainly I didn't take it camping, so you can use most small gas generators for doing that as well. And of interest, you can combine charging methods. Specifically, you can use AC and DC at the same time to charge the unit, but there is a max input for that, and it's about 1200 watts input altogether. Now, it does have a max input from AC alone at around 1200 watts. That's using that turbocharge I mentioned a few minutes ago. It's not something that's recommended. I don't recommend it, but I have used it, and I can tell you that it will charge this thing up very, very quickly. 45 minutes will get it to 80%, and then it slows down in order to protect the batteries inside, and then it takes a little longer to finish it off to 100%. You can put in 1,000 watts of solar all at the same time. That's a lot of solar panels, to be quite honest, more than I have in in my backup. But if you could get 1,000 watts of solar into it, it would charge from 0 to 100% in 70 minutes. You know, it occurs to me that I don't even think I mentioned the capacity that this battery holds in terms of power. So this is rated at 1,024 watt hours, and that's not insignificant. That's a lot of capacity in this battery. It was certainly enough for us while we were camping. I'll talk more to that in a moment. But what I wanted to do before I get there is just talk about the comparison I mentioned earlier with the Bluetti AC180, another power station similar in size and capabilities, but there were a few distances. Now, I wrote some of this down, and I'll just refer to that, but I'll put it all in the video description. Of course, you could go to the website and do that comparison on your own. But here's what I've discovered, and this is what Bluetti does on a regular basis, is they just keep incorporating the newest technologies, improving things, and they're able to get more capabilities in smaller packages and more versatility, with each successive generation. So in comparison with the AC180, the Elite 100 V2 is smaller and lighter, has a higher surge capacity, has a faster charge time, has a longer battery life, can accept more solar power, and has a faster switchover and even quieter operation. So just a few of the things that I wanted to give you. Again, more detail at the website and in the video description. Now, I just want to talk for a minute again about my experiences using this while I was away camping. So what we have determined based on our power needs is that the Elite 100 version 2 with that 1,024 watt hours of capacity is more than enough on any given day to power what we do. In fact, what we found that between 400 and 500 watts, that's all we use on any given day. So why do I feel I need a bigger power station? Well, it is the comfort that knowing that if I don't have a good solar day, if it's cloudy, rainy, or whatever, that I can probably get 2 full days out of this battery before it runs down. Now, we do take another power station with us to help us out. It can be something smaller, something that I can put on the refrigerator while this one is recharging. Now, I do that mostly because the site that we most often use at the park where we go camping doesn't have the greatest solar exposure, doesn't have the best sun exposure. So I'm not often getting the power that I want into this from the sun. So what we end up doing is we end up taking this power station, the solar panel, and our vehicle, parking it in an open area where we can get even better sunlight. So I need something else to be operating the fridge in the meantime. So that's the process that we go through. Having 2 power stations of roughly the same size makes that so much easier. You have the confidence in knowing you're never going to run out of power with the things that really need to be operating, like the refrigerator. I mean, yes, you want your cell phone operating. We use it as much for a camera when we're out hiking as anything else, but you need to have your refrigerator operating all the time. So that's what our power needs are. And certainly the Elite 100 certainly meets that demand very, very quickly. I really like the fact how fast this charges up, if necessary with turbo, but if not with solar. Even with the 200 watts running at about 140 watt input on most good days. It takes a while if you want to go from 0, but to top it off and that 400 watts that I would use in any 24-hour period, less than 4 hours, 3 hours, and we're usually topped up completely. And that was about as long as we park the car anywhere and let it charge up. So I just wanted to put out a little bit more about my experiences using the Elite 100. Now, I'll open it up to you. Do you have any comments or questions about the Bluetti Elite 100 version 2 or any of the other Bluetti products? I do have a line of videos where I talk about all the Bluetti ones that I have tried so far. If you do, put them in the comment section. If you have an interest in looking at this power station again, I'll put the links to that in the video description, as well as all the technical specs that I've talked about and more, of course. All right, until next time, get out and explore and take that path less traveled, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.